Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, December 19th. We are here live. It is a free-for-all today. I'm going to open the phone lines right now. Start dialing. Anything goes. If you have a question, a comment, a topic, jump in and join me. 855-950-3835 is the number. Start dialing. We'll get to those calls here as soon as they start coming in. We can talk about trucks, money, fuel mileage, maintenance, tires, taxes, technology, health and fitness on the road, getting started as an owner-operator, finding freight, working with brokers, getting your authority, anything at all. Just pick up the phone and join me. You know, we are officially starting the least productive 2 weeks of the entire year. Nothing ever gets done this time of year. Sometimes I wonder why we bother showing up to work at all. Maybe we should just take these 2 weeks off, make the whole 2 weeks a national holiday. Nothing gets done. I may... No, actually, I'm not. I was going to say I may work on some of my projects because I have a bunch that need to get done. But other than doing the show, I'm going to take it easy these 2 weeks and kind of recharge and get ready to start the new year. Got a lot going on, but I think for the most part, I'm going to kind of chill a little bit and relax and recharge for the next couple of weeks. So the schedule, if I remember right, so I know I'm off both Fridays, this week and next week. And I think both Mondays too. So I think there are 2 4-day weekends coming up maybe. Then after that, we'll get back to work. Like I said, nothing happens. You can't get anything done this time of year. So it's better to just sit back and chill a little bit. Now, if there's freight out there, go move it. The numbers are pretty mixed right now. It looks like we're really starting to see some of the downturns happening. I have calls are already starting to come in, which is awesome. I'm going to get to them. I do have a couple of, you know what? I'm just going to go to the calls. I'll hold on to those. Maybe I'll do them in a commentary. Let's get started today in Wisconsin. Tim, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, how are you today?
Good. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm headed down to pick up my first order from Azure Standard.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, they come through my area, Green Bay, like monthly or so, and it's been such a hard time trying to find that A2 half and half, and so I just ordered it from them. I ordered 4 cases, and so once a month I can head down there, and this is my first order. Just going to get it now.
Yeah, that's awesome. We get an order every Tuesday, so we have a place that's about 20 minutes away that we would normally go for grocery shopping and that kind of stuff. Anyway, we pick up there 3 times a month, and then we actually have a personal residence that we pick up once a month here in town. So it's really convenient. But we put in our orders over the weekend. I think we have till Sunday at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then we pick up on Tuesday. So, boy, since I started using them, we just don't go to the grocery store all that often anymore.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, their pricing, to be honest with you, like their half and half, actually is cheaper than what I was buying local, and much, much, much better quality.
Between the meat places where and I get some of my meat from Azure Standard. They have a frozen option as well, so you can get chicken and beef. I don't think I've seen much pork where I am. So sometimes I'll get some meat on that order because it's all regenerative. It's the same quality. Between the places we order meat from, Thrive Market, which is where we get a lot of our pantry stuff. They have such a great selection, and their prices are even better. And then as your standard, between those three, it's pretty rare that I go to the grocery store and you actually save a lot of money. Both of them are far less expensive than the grocery stores.
Yeah, yeah, and then the time, and I'm actually amazed at how many products that they actually carry, and it's kind of interesting. Me being in Wisconsin, so they got to travel a pretty good distance. So with the latest storms and that coming through, so we got delayed a little bit. They came through Wyoming. I-80 was closed, and so we kept getting updates. It was kind of interesting, but lo and behold, they'll be here within the hour, and I'll be down there and on my way home probably within an hour or so. So I'm pretty excited. So pretty seamless experience. Not difficult at all. And like I said, just on what I've seen pricing wise, very, very, very reasonable for sure.
Yeah, it is, and the quality of the products and the fact that they're local. Most of around the country they contract with local farms and local providers, so it's much better for our supply chain. It's better quality products. The prices are excellent. And once you kind of learn the system and it's not complicated, it is far more convenient than the grocery store. So our typical pattern is once the order window opens up, we go in and we start an order and you check out right then. And then that order stays open until your cutoff time, which is a couple days before they deliver. So anytime I think of anything, the order's open, I just go in there and I add it to the list. And it's like you do your shopping all week long, and then it shows up and it's there. And it is just, it's so convenient, but the quality of the products and the pricing is why I do it. And then it turns out that it's actually more convenient than going to the grocery store.
Yeah, if there's one hiccup, and I don't even know that I'd call it a hiccup, but like you said, so if you go in and you do your first order and check out, and then you go in like later in the week or whatever and start adding things. The only issue is that you don't get notification of the add-on stuff, like until the end, At first I didn't know if they got the addition, but other than that, very, very seamless.
Yeah, if you're not sure if something's on there, just go look in your cart. Everything you add is right there in the cart. I don't think they call it a cart.
Right. But
maybe they call it something else. But you can always go look to see what's on your list. Because by the time throughout the week, I'll think of something, and then I'm not sure if I've already added that something or not. So I'll have to go in and look on the list and see. And sometimes I've already added it. Sometimes I haven't. So it really, like I said, once you kind of get into the flow of it, it really is convenient.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but right around Thanksgiving, I told you the kids were coming home. I have a son and a daughter-in-law that are chefs, and I was all excited to show them, the hot honey and all that. And so my son looks at that and he goes, "Yeah, what's the big deal? Been doing that for a long time." So, and then he goes, "Now listen to this one. I've never heard of this." He goes, "Yeah," he says, "I'm playing around with some different methods of fermenting." I go, "Oh, like what?" He goes, "Well, we don't use a brine." I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, we add our salt in and then we vacuum seal it and we let it ferment that way in a vacuum sealer with no brine."
That's similar to. Yeah, that's the same as the way we make kimchi or sauerkraut a lot of times. For those types of dishes, we don't really use a brine. We just rub the salt into the cabbage and then pack it into a jar and put a lid on it. Vacuum packing, it's not a bad idea at all. I just wonder what happens as it starts to ferment.
Yeah, he's been doing like peppers and different kind of berries, and So here I was all excited, all proud of myself, and
Yeah.
he looked at me like, yeah, what's the big deal?
Well, that's
You
awesome.
know? So, but
It's good
anyway,
to see. I
yeah,
don't
I
think
thought
it's
it was,
ever going to catch on in any big way, but it's, I can remember 8 years ago, if you talked about fermenting stuff, people were just totally lost. They had no idea what you were talking about. Now it's starting to make a comeback.
yeah. So I tell you what I did the other night. We made wings, and the one thing I do is I use the regular buffalo sauce, and then I put the hot honey in, and then all those peppers that I ground up, I got in vinegar. It's kind of like a paste kind of. So I put a couple spoonfuls of that in the mix, shake it up, and I'll tell you what, some of the best wings I've ever had. I got to be honest with you, very very good sauce.
The interesting thing with fermenting is, I mean, we started doing it for the health benefits, the probiotics, it releases more nutrients. The biggest reason I continue, I mean, that's obviously important, but the other thing that I found out is fermenting creates flavors that don't exist without fermentation. There's no spice you can use. There's no seasoning. The only way to get some of these flavors is through fermentation. So it creates a whole new flavor profile. And now that we started fermenting with the honey, that's a whole new set of flavors. And I agree that the best wing sauce I have ever made was just this last time when I took the peppers out and created a hot sauce. So I do the same thing. When I take the peppers out of a hot honey batch, I just cover them in white vinegar. So I pack them into a container, whatever it might be, put in just enough white vinegar to cover them. And that keeps them preserved forever, basically. I mean, they can stay out. They're still sort of technically fermenting. That the acetic acid in the vinegar really slows down the fermentation, but they're still shelf stable. So I have jars of those just sitting in my pantry now, and I'll use them to make stuff. You could make a paste and then use that to cook with, or really you just take those peppers in white vinegar and start blending them. And you can blend them into a sauce, and then you can add garlic or whatever you want. And I am coming up with some of the most incredible tasting hot sauces from those peppers.
Yeah, what's interesting is I'm not a real hot lover because to me, that heat comes on so fast. But the way you do this with fermenting, it changes the way that whole heat comes on. It's just a subtle. It really changes that whole texture. It's amazing.
One of the differences, if you were to take just a jalapeno, a raw jalapeno, and eat it, if it's too hot, it's really uncomfortable. It's like everywhere it touches your mouth, you feel that burning sensation. When you ferment them and turn them into hot sauces, the heat kind of spreads out more into your whole mouth, and you start to get some flavor out of it. That's the difference to me. A lot of times, just hot peppers, they're just so intensely hot. Whereas once you ferment them, it's still the same level of heat, although vinegar actually does take away heat. So when you add vinegar to peppers to make the hot sauce, that does tame the pepper somewhat. But it, like you said, it kind of changes the whole dynamic of how you taste that hot.
Yeah, my wife, has her daily eggs and bacon and avocado. And what she does now is she takes that hot honey and squirts it over that whole dish.
I know, it's incredible.
She loves it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good stuff.
She really loves it. Yeah. But, hey, something a little off topic. You haven't really talked about it. How's your coach coming along? I was just kind of curious.
Good question. We were just talking about it yesterday because we're looking at our schedule. We have a big natural food show down in, I think it's in Anaheim. really, really big convention kind of show. It's not open to the public. You have to be some sort of a retailer of food products. So we're registered for that in the beginning of March, and then we have to be in Louisville at the end of March. So I want to be taken off out of here like the second week in February. So we're really only looking at it's only about 7 weeks out. So I've got to go down there. They're working through all the mechanical stuff right now, which is what has to get done before we leave. We need to go down and start making some decisions on the remodeling stuff. Like we're putting a new refrigerator in before this one gives up the ghost, because to change a refrigerator out of these things, the whole front windshield has to come out. But I've also got a chip in the windshield, so if we're going to take it out, we might as well just put in new glass too, and we're probably going to redo the tile and the flooring. So most of that stuff probably isn't going to get done ahead of this trip. We'll probably just get all the mechanical stuff done, maybe some of the smaller remodel stuff, and then we'll just have to bring it back.
Well, yeah, sounds good. Pretty interesting. And hey, one last thing. The interview, when you have Dr. Wolfson on, he's just so phenomenal, and it must have been really interesting for you to be down there. And it's probably like walking around with a rock star when you're at those conventions and that. And I think the guy is just brilliant. I mean, his thought process and how he works through things, and I've talked to a bunch of people about health and that, and I've recommended a few people there, and I don't know that they've gone there, but he would be the number one. I mean, he's probably one of like 3 people, but he's one of the best that I've read and listened to, and he's just a phenomenal guy.
I've always known that his health advice is top notch. I mean, I would say the same thing. If I need help health-wise, I know I'm going to first. I'm going to him. He's got the background in medicine. He understands the body. He was able to make that switch and realize how screwed up that system is. So as far as his health knowledge and advice, I've always known that's the guy I want to go to first. What I learned on this trip, he's the real thing. He is so genuine. What you hear from him is exactly the way he lives. He lives it, he breathes it, he talks about it all the time. That is who he is. He's the real deal. There's no doubt about it. So it was, we had a lot of fun. Interestingly enough, we talked very, very little about health or food or nutrition. We just spent the time kind of getting to know each other and hanging out in Vegas, going to meals, but walking through the convention was interesting. Like I said, we didn't get 10 feet most of the time, and somebody was stopping him to talk to him. When he was doing his book signing, I disappeared for several hours. I actually went and took a nap because you couldn't get near him. So he's been doing this a long time. He's active. He still speaks a lot. So I got to meet a lot of really interesting people that I would have never met if I wouldn't have been hanging out with him.
His wife wasn't there, was she?
No, she's been to that convention before. Again, when he talks about his whole approach to life now, eat well, live well, think well. He repeats that over and over. He means it. He lives by it. They are very, very family focused now. He doesn't work anywhere near the hours he used to work as a cardiologist. She, I don't believe, practices at all anymore. They really spend a lot of time with their kids.
Yeah, I guess I understand that. It's just she has got so much to give as well. I mean, she's a pretty brilliant woman from what I've read and some of the stories. And And look, she got him to change his views.
That's right.
But definitely interesting people, that's for sure.
No doubt, no doubt. Like I said, the one thing I certainly learned on this trip was he's genuine, no doubt about it. All right, phone lines are starting to pile up. I'm going to move along. We're going to head off to Missouri. Dale, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kev. I downloaded a book. You talked about it pretty good when you was on XM there. It's called The Obesity Code.
Oh, yeah, Jason Fung.
And, and I can hear a lot of the things you talk about probably came from that book. But very interesting book. I'm on chapter 17 now, but you're good about the whys, but I learned a lot more about the whys. Listen to this guy. It's you listen to it. It's very in depth.
Yeah, let me comment on that. Actually, the interesting thing about Jason Fung's books, for some reason, I don't know why, I skipped them in the beginning. The Obesity Code has been out for a long time, so is the Diabetes Code. I don't know why I skipped them. I really don't. I don't remember, consciously saying, oh, no, I'm not going to read those books. For some reason, I didn't read them, even though I was reading everything I could find. So most of what I say, even though it sounds exactly like what he says, it's exactly like 100 other doctors are saying, I didn't get from his books because I hadn't read them yet. Whenever the Cancer Code came out, which has been in the last couple of years, I was really interested in reading the Cancer Code because there aren't that many good books about cancer. His was excellent, by the way. But what I learned by reading that book was how good of a writer he is. Probably one of the best, in my opinion, of all the doctors who have put out books. He may be the best writer of them all. And I don't know if he did all the writing or if he had a lot of help with it or he had a really good editor. But you said they're in depth, and they are, but they don't feel like they're in depth. They're not like, even a book like Wheat Belly. A lot of technical stuff to get through in there, which sometimes can be kind of difficult reading, where Jason Fung's books to me seem like easy reading. Like I just breeze right through them, and yet I pick up all this information. He's just a really good writer.
Well, the one thing about it is if you was a person per se that never heard anything about the information in his book, or you've never listened to your show or anybody like you, then you would probably need what he's doing. But I got to tell you, at the first half of his book, it's like, I got it already. Just get to the damn meat and potatoes of what you're talking. You know what I mean? Because I don't need convincing is where I'm at with that. I could have did with a lot less of that.
It's a really good point you make. But you have to remember, I've said this many times, I think one of the reasons why we have been as successful as we have been, and if you think about our tribe, they are in about the worst health shape in the country as far as a group of people, an occupation. There aren't many groups that are as unhealthy as truck drivers. There just aren't. And a lot of people look at that and go, oh, what are we going to do? How are you going to help them? They're on the road. They have all these things working against them. But look at how much success we've had. And I often wonder, what was it that made us as successful as we've been? And I really believe that it was the repetition, that we were able to say this over and over and over and over every day. How many times did you hear me say to people, eat meat, fish, eggs, nuts, and seeds? I must have said that 10,000 times when we were going through that stage. But I really believe that our success came from the repetition. We've been bombarded with the wrong health messages and advice our entire life. For me, that was 5 decades worth of hearing that stuff over and over and over. So I believe that repetition is absolutely necessary. Ultimately, what this comes down to, though, is if we can just get this message out to people and they start eating the right stuff, we would need a lot less doctors. I mean, they're not necessary. We don't need doctors to tell us any of this stuff. I'm glad they are. And I know it needs to start with them and it needs to come from them. But ultimately, if everybody just ate like this, how many doctors would we really need?
Well, you'd need a lot. You'd probably just need more trauma doctors, really.
Exactly. Yeah. But so
surgeons, but
no matter how complicated these diseases or conditions sound like, or how complicated we make the human body with all its pathways and receptors, and we can make this really complicated. But the answer itself on how to be healthy is really, really simple. Like I've said, we can make the human body unbelievably complicated, but the owner's manual on how to live should only be 1 page. It's not that hard.
Well, and I got one to pass along for everybody. Since you brought it up, right now, if you get on Audible, the audio books, I won't say it's on Audible, but I just searched for audio books on my iPhone. And when you purchase the audio copy of the obesity code for 25 something, you also get the cancer code comes with it.
Oh, really?
So that's probably a pretty good bargain.
That's a great deal.
Now.
Yeah, that's a great deal.
So I'm looking forward to that book after this, but it's just so many things I've learned about, simple things that I remember. As he said, your grandma says, if you snack, you get fat. I remember my grandma saying that. And then you get doing the math, and normally you'd eat 3 times a day. There's about 4 hours apart, 4 hours of eating, 4 hours of fasting. It's just all these things that I didn't realize. I was take like meat snacks, and I've talked to you enough. I eat a pretty healthy diet. Like today, I've got a brisket, some brisket I smoked last night, and some smoked turkey in my lunchbox. And in fact, all I brought with me is about a 1 finger deep bag of peanuts, some brisket, some smoked turkey, and some of the Cardio Miracle that I mixed with my water out of my coffee thermos that has no more coffee in it anymore. But that's my whole day. But I fasted until 7:30 this morning, and I won't eat till at least noon. And ironically, I'm not hungry.
Yeah. Here's an interesting quote that kind of sums up a lot of what we talk about when it comes to diet. So try to guess while I'm saying this quote, which one of the doctors that I've had on my show said this quote. Fatty foods are crucial because they increase satiety and so decrease fat accumulation. Avoid sugar, sweets, and potatoes. Limit bread and vegetables. Meat of every kind may be eaten, and fat meat especially. Any guess who said that?
Sounds a lot like what Dr. Fung said. But
yeah, that sounds like what a lot of us are saying these days. Here's the interesting thing. It was a trick question. This guy's never been on my show, obviously. It's Dr. Wilhelm Epstein, and that is from a book titled Obesity and Its Treatments, written in 1882.
Oh, that's why Dr. Fung recited that from that, because that's what his book's all about.
Right.
He's not just pulling shit out of a hat,
Right.
That's why I remember him distinctly saying that.
Exactly. 1882.
Yeah.
Yeah. None of this stuff is new. It's not a fad.
No.
This is the way we are supposed to eat.
Yeah. And like George McGovern, I bet you he's responsible for killing more people damn near than Hitler did.
Yeah, or Oh shoot, what's the scientist name that told us we had to start eating this way? The guy that created K rations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we talk
I know
about him
the
all
guy
the
you're
time. I'm
talking
drawing a
about.
blank on his
He
name right
developed
now.
it. He developed it. He's the guy that developed the rations for the military.
Yeah,
And
the
it came
K
up with K
ration. So his name starts with a K,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Right.
It's just not coming to me.
It's escaping me right now, but
Yeah.
that Azure Standard. How do you spell that Azure?
Azure.
Okay, so just like it sounds, I got that right.
Yep.
And then what was the other outfit you guys were talking about? I didn't hear the name of the other one.
Oh, the where I get
was ordering from
Thrive Market. Thrive Market.
Fly.
Thrive.
Right.
Yeah, Thrive. It's an online grocery store. It used to be pantry only. Now they even do some refrigerated and frozen. You can get meat shipped from them as well. They find some of the most unique kind of health foods from all over. I mean, I have found more good products with them. And you can even shop by like diet type if you want. You can shop by paleo, you can shop by keto. I don't know if they've added carnivore yet or not, probably not. But and the pricing is amazing. Now, it's one of those where you pay a monthly or a yearly subscription. I don't know. It's like $50 or $75 if I remember. You could save that much on your first
Like
couple
Sam's
of orders.
Club, Dave. You can do that at Sam's Club or Costco, anywhere like that anyway. But
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. You have to have a subscription to shop there. You pay an annual fee, but it is well worth it. Their pricing, I have never been able to beat their pricing on just about any product. And a lot of the stuff that I buy through there, I just can't find anywhere else anyway.
yeah, I tell you what. Back to that obesity code book. Anybody that's been a long time listener of yours, they can pretty much skip the first 7 chapters of the book, and then I encourage you not to, so you understand why I would think you could. If you've listened to the show a lot, you already know he's just based on the knowledge you would have from listening to your show over the course of 2 to 3 years. He just beaten a dead horse. We've already heard it. Most people have not, so I get it. The reason why the book's written that way.
Yeah, right.
But I encourage people to listen to that because you'll learn so much about. There's things that you touch on quite a bit, but then this guy's more in depth on it. Like you mentioned one time just in conversation, these damn juicers don't drink your vegetables and don't drink your fruit. Eat them. Well, the reason why is behind that is explained in this book. Is like the carbohydrates and the sugars that's in there. They're also wrapped in with fiber, and the fiber actually reduces the amount of the sugar intake your body gets. And there's just so much information in this book that I never knew. Like anytime you put anything in your mouth that has, whether it's a steak or an egg or a candy bar or a lollipop or anything, it spikes insulin in your body. So if you literally, you've always said, don't eat unless you're hungry. If you're hungry, eat. Don't go hungry.
Right.
But explaining more in depth, if you have 12 hours of feeding time in your day, they need to be three times or less at 4 hours apart or more. But you also need to balance that with 12 hours of fasting time, so you don't to drop your insulin resistance, which is another thing you talk about several times, insulin resistance. And this is an amazing book. I'd encourage anybody to buy it.
I agree. All 3 of them actually are just really good books. The Obesity Code, the Diabetes Code, and the Cancer Code. Excellent. Like I say, it's just he's extremely knowledgeable, and he's just a really good writer.
Yeah, it's not hard to understand. So if anybody thought when I said really in depth, you're going to learn a lot, but it's not.
Maybe a better way of saying
it,
you just kind of started to explain it. It's not in depth in all of the science and the facts and the details and the chemical, what's going on this pathway. it's really loaded with a lot of real world stuff that you get, that you understand. You
Yeah,
go, oh, that
exactly.
makes sense. That's why I shouldn't be sucking down 3 smoothies a day. I mean, you're right. It's very loaded with stuff, but it's stuff that's easy to understand and put into use every day.
I tell you what, even the way my wife and I date for last 3 years, I've been doing this, just mapping out my day on, I'm not going to, besides water or something, I don't take anything in between, for at least 4.5 hours a day. And just over the course of a weekend, my wife told me this morning when I got up, she's like, "Wow, you really look good." Because I may try to do that too.
It's hard to
I don't know what would
explain.
look different.
I've said when I go to conferences and you're around a lot of people that live this way, you start to see that they look different. It's hard to explain. And I've said they look more human. I know that's hard to kind of get your head around. Now, the interesting thing was this last conference that I went to, I didn't notice nearly as much of that. One, it was so big. But two, remember, this was an anti-aging. And there was a lot of stuff at this conference that had nothing more to do than just looks. Like, machines that firmed up your skin and, injections that took away laugh lines. And there was a lot of kind of aesthetics about how you look. I think it's the wrong approach. I think if you want to look your best, skip all that crap and just do what we talk about anyway. You end up looking better. Your skin looks better. Your eyes look better. Everything. And again, it's hard to describe, but I noticed at this conference, I'm like, I don't quite see it as much. And then I started realizing a lot of and I'm going to pick on the women here, a lot of the women walking around looked the opposite of human. They all had the big puffy lips that, just isn't natural. They're injecting something. And so there was a lot of that mixed into this conference because it was designed for anti-aging.
I think that's about as attractive as women wearing a hog ring in their nose.
I look, do what you want. I don't really criticize people for things like that, but I don't see that as being more attractive. All this, the fillers and it doesn't look natural to me at all. And to me, natural is attractive.
Yeah, and it's just like that movie Tomb Raider. I can't watch it over that, the big puffy lip thing. I mean, Mick Jagger would walk up to that gal in Tomb Raider and go, "Damn, you got some big ass lips." But, I don't, that whole, injecting your lips and just all this, crap that they're doing to, I don't know. If you want to get a tattoo, get a tattoo. I'll never have one, and that's great. I'm glad for both of us, really am. But I just,
the interesting
I can't
thing,
do the big puppy lip thing.
Yeah, the interesting thing, tattoos. I got one when I was still in high school, way, way back before tattoos had really become popular. Back then it was biker gangs, and but it was just kind of starting. So I got one really early, and I think I've got 3. I think I've gotten 4 in my lifetime. I got a small one covered up with. I kind of like them, but I won't ever get another one because I realized how bad they are for you health-wise. We were actually doing a one-on-one with somebody, and their C-reactive protein was through the roof, which is a measure of inflammation. And we were trying to figure out why. There was no logical reason. And then while we were talking, somehow the idea of tattoos came up, and this person had just gotten one. And I thought, there's our answer. There's why the C-reactive protein went through the roof. We just, created massive inflammation in the body.
Oh. Anyhow, I just, I did want to talk to you about the book and get that, made sure I was filling that as your standard, right? Because I want to look that up after work. But I got a call I got to make. I'll let you get on to somebody else. But yeah, good stuff. I appreciate your show.
There you go. Thanks for the call. Yeah, excellent books, no doubt. Some of my favorites now. Let's go to Indiana. Steve, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kevin, and you're entirely wrong about this week. I have 5 loads between this morning and tomorrow night at 11 o'clock. I booked 2 while I was on hold for you.
I almost mentioned that it never used to be this way when I had trucks. This was still a good time of year to get stuff done and make money. And it's just everywhere else in business. If you're working with other people, and a lot of my projects require other people and partners and other companies, nothing gets done. During these 2 weeks, you might as well just relax and sit back and chill. Now, I could spend these 2 weeks working on my part of these projects, but I've kind of decided I could use a little break too. I think I'm just I'll do the show. We're taking Fridays and probably Mondays off for the next 2 weeks. But other than that, I'll do the show. When the show's over, I'm kind of chilling. I played a bunch of Xbox yesterday. I've read a bunch of good books over the weekend. I'm just not going to work too hard for the next 2 weeks. And then I'm going to come back swinging the beginning of next year.
Yeah, I agree. No, I'm finishing up this week, and I had a load cancel this morning. That was a great paying load, and I've replaced it with 4 others, and actually upped the money. But it's stuff I'll do same day. I do pick and runs. I'll do anything when I'm out here to make money. That's why I'm gonna do Matt's kind of net this year around 200. And you can do that if you'll just keep yourself busy while you're out here. But what I wanted to tell you about, I've got a mile and a half before I get to my pickup. But what I wanted to talk to you about other than that was I blasted you all weekend on Messenger with more died suddenly, and another, and I know you've seen that. I also sent you a podcast. It's about a 40-minute podcast with a foremost a cardiologist from Britain who was big time promoting the vaccine until his dad died from it. And it's Cheryl Atkinson. She's very, very good investigative reporter on vaccine. So I sent that in Messenger to you. The gentleman's name is Dr. Asim Malhotra from Britain. And I would like you to listen to that and it is amazing. And he's being pushed back on very, very hard.
Yeah, so he's an interesting guy, actually. I've known about him as a doctor for a very long time. He was one of the first low-carb advocates over there. He did a reality TV show for a while where he would go in and help people with their health, and he'd go into their house and tear their pantry and refrigerator apart. And then, so really interesting guy, but he was a big proponent of the vaccine in the beginning, which shocked me. Most of the natural doctors we work with were exactly the opposite. So I was watching him and I was a little shocked. He did a complete 180. He is probably one of the most outspoken critics of the vaccine now. He is all over Twitter every day posting, 5 and 10 times a day, stories of people being injured by the vaccine, killed by the vaccine. He has said that it needs to be halted immediately, that nobody should be taking it until we actually get the data.
Right. And he said actually when they got some of Pfizer's data from their test, they found that 4 people in the test group that got the vaccine died. Only one of the placebos died. That, he said, it should have been at that point. It should have been stopped at that point. There's no doubt about it. So like I say, I'm with that. It's very interesting. The podcast. Cheryl's really good. I don't know if you. She was with CBS. She got canceled at CBS back 15 years ago because she went after the pharmaceutical company. And so she's very, very much an investigative reporter. She has her own show on the that network of stations that's a little bit more conservative. But she's very, very good. And so if you get a chance, look in your messenger. It's about a 40-minute podcast, but you definitely would be interested. I know you know of him. He had a lot of new information in this podcast that just dropped the other day. So
but you mentioned Cheryl Atkinson. I follow her as well on Twitter. When we first moved to Oregon and I was kind of trying to figure out which local news channel I wanted to watch, and I flipped around between a couple. And obviously I'm in Oregon. I'm 40 minutes from Portland, so it's extremely liberal here. So I found one of the big three news channels, and I don't even know which one it is, but it's on one of the three big networks. And that's kind of the news. When I want to watch local news, I'll turn that one on. And I started seeing special reports being advertised during that news show by Cheryl Atkinson, and I never knew who she was. And I was shocked that they were promoting her so heavily on this channel. And I thought, well, that's probably why, of all the news channels in Portland, this is the one I actually listen to.
Right. Well, that's the station that is owned. I think that it's some group that owns like 40 of them around the country, and they make their anchors wear a flag lapel. I mean, it's kind of that was what they were criticized for at one point.
Yeah, she is really like good.
She got canceled. Oh yeah, she got canceled. She has Full Measures. Her show, just like 60 Minutes, called Full Measure.
Yep,
she does that every week.
It's excellent.
But it's an excellent show. Yeah, it is. So like I say, like I say, anytime I see them, I'm just gonna send it and say, and another, and another, and another. So, it's crazy. Well, look, I have got to go in here and drop an hook, and got to get these 5 off between now and tomorrow night. So, Merry Christmas, and by the way, I'm going ice fishing and snowmobiling next week. Do not tell our friend that I'm snowmobiling because I'm going up to the UP and do that. We can't do too much ice fishing on the coast of North Carolina. So.
Excellent. There you go.
All right. Well, look, my friend, y'all have a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Great stuff. Let's go to Indiana. Brandy, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Kevin. So this year, I'm going to be giving a lot of gift cards out. And when you give a gift card out, it's just sort of plain. So I was thinking I'd like to give some hot honey out. So I looked on Google and where can I buy hot honey? So there was two local stores in my area where I could buy it directly. My point is basically to tell you about those two things. I don't want to, plug them or not, but I would buy your hot honey if it was available.
So I have to believe
to give as a gift.
One of the brands you found was Mike's.
Yeah, there was one store had only that, and then the other one had a generic, and I think it was Heinz, but they didn't call it hot honey. They called it something else. But I could tell by the ingredients that's what it was. But to attach a card to it, so people don't just think they're just getting a card. I don't like hot stuff myself, but I know 2 people that do, and it would be to get them interested in it. And then they'll ask me, "Where did you get it?" But this would be another place where if you had it in your store, I could refer right back to your store. And it's just one thing to another.
I am actually trying to decide. I am about 3 steps away from creating our own commercial batch of hot honey that would go into the store and be sold. I just don't know if I want to take on a project that big or not. We've got some good partners lined up already. Everything's in place. We would just have to pull the trigger. And I've always wanted to create some sort of a food product because, I spend a lot of time in the kitchen. This one's so unique. So that may happen. It's not going to happen, obviously, before Christmas, but it may happen. That's something I kind of will take the next couple weeks and decide. We've got everything in place. We figured out it is viable. So it's possible. Now, I will say both of those hot honeys that you find on the market, they're not the same. It's a very, for one, they're not fermented. So you don't get those same unique fermented flavors. They are what we would call an infused honey, not a fermented honey. So they're infusing the heat in. They may be using a chili powder of some kind.
Yeah, that's what it said on it, yeah.
Yeah, so the difference there is it's going to taste like honey that you added something spicy to. And that's very different from the fermented hot honey. Because they're using a powder, the honey is still really thick, like regular honey. It's still very sweet, like regular honey. And then you get the hot kind of over top of it. Whereas when you ferment the peppers into the honey, you create a whole new bunch of flavor profiles. For one thing, the fermentation itself creates new flavors. The fermentation eliminates much of the sweetness because the fermentation converts the sugar to lactic acid. That's where we get the flavors from, and that's why the sweetness starts to disappear. And the honey gets much thinner because we're pulling the water out of the peppers or whatever we're infusing. I have some recipes going right now that I'm infusing horseradish and turmeric and garlic and black pepper and rosemary and parsley and hot peppers, but they're fermenting in there. They're not just infused. So it's kind of like you can go get a dill pickle.
That makes sense about the bottle.
Yeah, you can go into the grocery store and get a dill pickle like we've eaten all our life. But if you eat a fermented dill pickle rather than a pickled dill pickle, they're two totally different things. I mean, they don't taste the same. This is the same way. The hot honeys that are on the market are not what we're creating here. Two totally different products in my mind.
Yeah. Well, when you said that that bottle exploded and I saw the plastic, it's like, wow, that's different. So that makes sense. And, I had never heard of hot honey until you brought up the topic. So I'm thinking, well, if I can introduce this into these two people that I know that like hot things, that when you finally do put something out, then it's like, I can give that away. And then they'll wonder, where did you get this? And then it'll go right back to your store. And then, obviously that will lead to many other people. Wow, what is this? This is the way I think. And
yeah, like I say, it's
just ideas. That's all.
Everything's in place. We've already got our partners. We've got our suppliers. We've got a possible co-packer. I would not go out and spend the money to buy equipment so we could pack this ourselves. There's too many unknowns still. So in the beginning, we would use what they call a co-packer. That's just a factory that packs food, and you contract with them.
I like Shark Tank myself.
Yeah, so it would be, our recipe. We would control the suppliers and the ingredients, but then we just hand it off to a food factory and they pack it for us. That's called a co-packer. So we've got a couple lined up. Some actually, it came up this morning, and I've had him on my show several times, CEO and founder of Azure Standard. He's a big part of this as far as helping us with suppliers. And it's possible they may become our co-packer in this. So, like I said, the next couple of weeks, I kind of got to dig deep and make up my mind. I'm almost at the point in this project. I've talked about this book before, The Dip by Seth Godin. On this project, I'm in the dip right now. I've been working on it for several months. I've played around with tons of recipes. I've had, explosions and, bad batches, and I've learned a lot. And I've got to decide, is this just a hobby, something I make for myself and have fun with and, something new to do in the kitchen? Or is there really a business opportunity here? So that's part of why I'm just going to take
judging by the short
the next couple weeks off and just kind of
judging by the store shelves. I would say yes, and I would say use word of mouth.
Yeah,
and then your business will explain. Just like everything else does.
The beauty of this, we've done the numbers, and I'm completely convinced we could sell enough of this just to our tribe alone that it would make it worthwhile to do.
Yeah.
We certainly wouldn't lose any money. It's easy enough to do small enough batches of this, and there is enough potential profit there. So, and that's another reason why we may just pull the trigger and try this. There's really not a whole lot of risk for us.
Yeah. Well, that's all. Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome. The one thing I always have to be careful of, taking on big projects that kind of take over the company, and then we can't, serve our clients well. So I've just got to be careful of that. All right, I'm going to grab another call here. This is our last call. The board was filled up there, but we kind of blew through them pretty quick. If you want to jump in, still plenty of time today. 855-950-3835. Go ahead and jump in and join us. It is a free-for-all. Anything goes. We're going to head off to Oregon. Ryan, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
What's on your mind today?
Hello. I sent in an oil sample to you to look at for me.
All right, let me see if I've got it here. Of course I do. Morgan sent it right over. Thank you, Morgan. Uh-oh. Ooh, seeing a couple things that might not be good. Let me figure out what we've got going on here. So, do we have 1.4 million miles on this engine?
Yeah, the exact mileage is not quite known, but somewhere between 1.4 and 1.5, yeah.
What's your oil consumption like?
It uses about a gallon every 8,000.
I would start scheduling your in-frame. You could probably go out another maybe 4 months, 3 to 4 months, but sometime within the next 3 to 4 months, when it makes sense, probably plan it with the vacation. Get it in and get it done. If you want to keep this truck and keep this engine, it's at the end of its usable life.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit more history. I haul horses, and I only drive 30 to 40,000 miles a year. So I will be keeping it for a long time. But I don't use it every day like the rest of your tribe does.
Yeah, then you could go even longer. I was basing it on time.
My one question I had was, on the last 4 samples, the lead and copper have both been adding up. Do those just keep building as the oil stays in there?
Yeah, all wear metals will build up, even with the best bypass filtration in the world. The wear metals are too small to filter out. They're less than a micron. So they will build up over time, which is actually a good thing. They don't hurt anything being in there. They're too small to do any damage. It gives us a good indication of what's going on. We see that build up over time. And what we're seeing is you're about to lose your bearings. I mean, you've got some time. I would keep a good close eye on oil pressure. It's possible, since you only do 30,000 miles a year, I might just roll a set of bearings in.
Okay.
The cylinder kit's using a gallon of oil every 8,000 miles. Let's think about that. You're only going to add 4 gallons a year.
Correct.
So I don't think I would do an in-frame. Now, if this was a truck you were running 100,000 miles a year, I'd say, yeah, let's go ahead and do the in-frame, and you'll get another 10 years out of it if you want, or more. But I don't think in this case I would do the in-frame. I would do the bearings because we don't want to wipe out an engine.
Okay, and the silicon number builds up over time also, correct?
No, not it can, but when we see one at 10, it's time to start looking to see if we've got a leak somewhere.
Okay, I do have fleet air filters, so I'll clean those again, but wanted to double check.
Yeah, make sure they're oiled right. But I think given the way you use this truck, I would just roll a set of bearings into it.
Okay. That sounds good. I appreciate the help.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. The beauty of oil analysis. There's so much we can tell. Let's go to Ohio. Herschel, welcome to the program.
What do you say, Kevin?
Well, good morning. What's on your mind today?
Oh, daggone notifications on cell phones. Shut up. Well, it's making that sound like I got a voicemail and I don't have time to mess with it.
Exactly.
Well, I know that in the past you've told me, man, you just got to chill out. Don't tell me that today.
Okay. I won't.
I know, and pardon the French, but I already know I'm fucked up in the head, but now I got to figure out how to fix it.
I have some ideas that I didn't have the last 15 times we've talked about this.
Well, you know I know how you do things as far as the way you should eat and not eat and all that good stuff. And I went from 306 to 220, and now I'm back to about 242. And, I know how to do it. But quite frankly, I am so sick of everything. The idea-wise, I don't know what to do. I've got myself now to the point where I'm almost afraid to eat, which just pisses me off. So then I end up saying, screw it, and I have something that I probably shouldn't do, and I know better. I'm not back to the sad. I'm not that level yet, no.
Right.
But farther away from where I ought to be. Just as an example, Thanksgiving. We went down to the daughters for Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving, quite frankly, has been hell and all holidays for the last 5 or 6 years. Thanksgiving ended up being a turkey leg and a half of a deviled egg that I know I shouldn't have eaten, but I did anyway because I just said, screw it. It's to the level of depression when it comes to food. I absolutely hate it. If I could never eat again, that would be perfectly fine with me. I don't know what the hell to do. I'm sick of it. It's to the point where my value to society and to my home life is gone. I've give up playing golf. I give up going to the dirt track races. I've give up everything. I was going to list my motorcycle for sale the other day. My wife got mad at me, so I didn't do it. I just feel fucking shitless. I mean, just absolutely shitless. And
Herschel,
I don't know what to do. I have
Herschel,
no idea. Why?
Things happen for a reason. If you would have called me 6 months ago with this call, I would have been depressed.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't like it when I have somebody on the line that I can't help and I don't know what to do next. And if you would have called me 6 months ago, and I know your history and we've worked on a lot of things, 6 months ago, I wouldn't have known what to say. And that would have been awful. Because if I have somebody on the line that's feeling the way you are right now and I can't help them, that would just suck. Here's the good news. I can fix this.
It does suck.
I now get this. This kind of stuff doesn't scare me the way it used to. And when I say this kind of stuff, I'm talking about depression, anxiety, stress. One of the big breakthroughs I just realized after reading the new book, Brain Energy, that what we call depression and anxiety and even things as bad as bipolar, they are all just manifestations of stress. That's all this is. And they are all metabolic. There's nothing magical about our brain. It's an organ. It does different things than the heart does or the kidney or the liver, but it's an organ. Every other organ in our body reacts extremely well to getting metabolically healthy. So does our brain. It just takes a little longer. And sometimes we have to dig a little deeper. But I've been talking about this damn stress protocol for like 2.5 years now. And I haven't finished it for a reason, because it never felt finished to me. I had made a ton of breakthrough. All the things I have figured out absolutely work, but there was a point where if I tried to do these things with you, they wouldn't work. They didn't work for everybody. There was a point where you got, I hate to say it this way, but almost too far gone. What I was doing would work if you caught somebody early enough. So that's why I kept thinking, I'm missing something here. I've got it figured out now, and I'm shocked that it's going to come down to supplements, but it is. These are nutritional deficiencies that create this cycle and this spiral, and we've got to get somebody out of those nutritional deficiencies first. Then we can start building the stress muscle. What's changed is just in the last 2 months, and the final breakthrough is at this conference. I now know how to solve these nutritional issues. It's stuff I would have never thought about. Vitamin B8. Hell, I wouldn't even know what B8 is. There's a whole bunch of B vitamins, and they all have a name and a number. Like
B12 is the one you hear about.
B12 we hear about all the time. B6. But the first time I heard, I'm like, B8. I was talking to one of the people from Biotics. And we were talking about stress and all this work I've been doing on it, and like I still feel like I'm missing something. And he starts talking about B8. I'm like, what the hell is B8? And he says it's inositol. And I said, really? That's B8? Because it ends in TOL. That means it's a sugar alcohol, like mannitol and sorbitol and inositol. I've heard of it. I didn't know it was B8. It is. It's about half as sweet as sugar, so it's actually a sweetener, but it plays a fairly big role in all of this. So part of my supplement regimen, I'm trying to decide whether it's going to be 4 or 5. There are 4 or 5 supplements that really start to fix the root cause of what's going wrong with our brain. Between those 4 or 5 supplements, which none of them, by the way, are adaptogens, these are just, one of them is magnesium. I mean, this isn't like crazy exotic stuff we've never heard of. It's the right forms of some of the minerals we deal with all the time. One of them is a little shocking when I heard this one, lithium. But I've always known of lithium as
eat batteries.
Yeah, well, I've always known of lithium as a heavy-duty pharmaceutical that they use for schizophrenia. You know, if you've ever probably haven't heard of the band Evanescence, I actually like them quite a bit. They're not really my time, but I like their music a lot. She actually sings a song called Lithium, and it's about her because she's had all kinds of mental issues and how she can't live without lithium. And I mean, it's a heavy-duty pharmaceutical, but it's also nothing more than a mineral that we should have in our body. And we know that we are minerally depleted because our soil and our food supply is depleted. We don't need much lithium, but we need what we need, and we're not getting it from our diet. So we're using here's how, this is, I just love Biotics. This is what they do. They actually take and grow a plant, and they grow it in soil that has had good quality lithium added to the soil, and then they harvest the plant, and we're eating the plant as a supplement. And we're getting natural additional lithium. This isn't a pharmaceutical like they're giving crazy people. Schizophrenia is a pretty severe mental illness. So I was a little shocked when I first heard lithium. I'm like, you're kidding. But now I understand. So I am really close. This is the project I need to come out of the gates swinging with in January to finishing this. And here's the way I'm seeing it. I think we're going to have 2 weeks on adaptogens, 2 weeks on supplements, and then check some numbers and then move on to the physical protocol. And if you combine that with, I would say a mostly carnivore diet, we're going to solve these things pretty quickly. You want to be one of my test cases?
I just know that, I'm at the end of my rope. I'm to the point. The Cincinnati Bengals were playing yesterday. Joe Burrow against Tom Brady, the game of the GOAT against Joe Burrow, the next GOAT, and the whole thing. And I'm from Ohio, so we watched the Bengals. I actually come home. They were in the third quarter. Looked like a damn good game. And I actually said to myself, and I meant it, you low good piece of shit, you don't deserve to watch that football game. And I didn't watch it. Hey, that's where I'm at.
Hey, Herschel.
And it's disgusting. I hate it.
I get it, and I hear it. So I've got a couple things. One, if you're willing, you don't have to commit to anything now. I will do a personal one-on-one with you. Lauren does most of that work for us now. I do special cases that I will probably learn something from. You clearly fit into that category. You are the absolute case that I want to know that I can fix, and I'm 99% sure now that I can. So it's perfect timing for that. I've also got another recommendation for you, and I want you to take a couple deep breaths, and I want you to keep a wide open mind.
Coughing again.
Because what I'm about to tell you, I know what your initial reaction is going to be. So I'm going to tell you what it's going to be before I even say it. It's going to be, when I make this recommendation, your mind is going to say not no, but hell no. It's the last thing I want to do right now. But it's the one thing that will help get you out of the funk you're in so we can start working on this. You want to know what it is?
Shoot, go for it.
You have to find somebody else to help. It may be volunteering at a shelter, going to pick up food and taking it to a food bank. It may be finding a friend who's in worse shape than you are right now and helping them through whatever they're going through. You've got to go find an opportunity to help somebody else. And I know right now it's the last thing you want to do.
Well, that's kind of an interesting twist or take on your synopsis, because holidays in general, they're pure hell. I mean, they just are. I cannot wait until January to get past all this, because to me, it's all horse shit. I absolutely hate it.
Then skip the holidays.
I can't wait for it to be over.
Skip the holidays with your family. Explain to them that you're on a mission this year, and go work for some charitable organization all through the holidays.
I'll have to do some research on that. I'm not sure where you do that around where I live. I'm sure there's something, but I don't know.
You'll find a place. Like I said, call food banks. They can either, use help on, the days when they're distributing food. They can almost always use help picking up and delivering food. I used to do it a lot with my kids. We'd get up early in the morning. We'd go hit 3 or 4 grocery stores. We'd pick up their old items. We'd deliver them to the food bank. There are opportunities. And it's going to be the hardest thing to do. Your mind is going to say, screw that. I'm in bad shape. Why would I go help somebody else right now? It's but I will promise you, it's going to be really, really difficult to get started, but push through it. It's the most important thing you could do right now.
I would have never guessed you'd say something like that. That's for sure.
Because we're not going to accomplish much in the next 2 weeks, even if I started with you on the protocol today. It's a bad time.
No.
It's so let's forget that. That's not going to have a really big impact right now. In fact, it might backfire. It might just make you more frustrated. We need to get you out of your own head right now. And the best way to do that is go help somebody else.
And the other way, just a tidbit for you to explain, to maybe help you understand where I am. Everybody says we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. You hear that all the time, right?
Yeah.
And in essence, it's true. But in my head, that is not acceptable. You cannot make a mistake. If you do, you're a good for nothing, no good SOB. It's just the way it is. Doesn't make it right. That's the way it is.
Herschel?
What?
Do you understand who you're talking to here? Do you know what my philosophy in life is?
Ready, shoot, what is it? Shoot, aim, and I forget now.
Yeah, ready, fire.
Ready, aim, fire.
Ready, fire, aim is one of them. Jump off the cliff and build your parachute on the way down is another. But here's the big one. I mean this. This isn't just a saying. This is how I do things. Make as many mistakes as you can possibly make as fast as you can make them. It's the best way to learn.
Oh, I definitely do that.
No, you don't. You make the mistakes, but you don't learn from them because you have the wrong attitude about it. You think it's a failure.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
you
true.
think that is a failure on your part. It's not. That's the best way to learn something and serve somebody else. People, say all the time, how do you learn all this stuff? I go out and try to screw everything up as much as I can because I learn from my mistakes. I don't learn from my successes. Well, here's a good example. I made 15 batches of hot honey. They all came out great. What did I learn? Oh, you can put some peppers in hot honey and come up with a cool new product. But then I had one explode. That's a failure. I spent 8 hours cleaning up my pantry, a whole wasted day. But it wasn't wasted. I learned something. This stuff can keep fermenting.
Well,
it may seem like a small lesson, but that's how I approach every day. What can I screw up today? What mistake can I make today that I'll learn from?
Even that, when you talk the hot honey, and you know me, I've been to NTPs, you name it, functional docs, been to a bunch of them. The original food sensitivity test and the second one that I did said that honey was one of my ain't no way Jack sensitivities. So I'm scared to death to even try that hot honey.
Don't.
I mean, that's where I'm at. I'm literally scared to do it. Literally.
Yeah, and that's why we're not going to talk about food. We're not going to talk about supplements right now because that's not where you are. I think one of my strengths is that I'm pretty good at being able to meet people where they are. What do you need right now? And it's not food or supplements. We need an attitude adjustment. Now, part of that attitude is part of your diet, but we can't fix that part yet. We've got to fix where you are right now, and clearly don't fall off the wagon completely. Don't go back to the standard American diet. Pay attention to your food, but don't obsess over it. Don't think too much about food right now. But you need to find somebody else to help.
Okay. Well, my apologies to everybody listening. I didn't mean to drag everybody through the mud, but
that's just what this show's for.
I got to do something. I don't know what else to do.
Hey, Herschel, that's what this show is for. And if there are things that people don't like to listen to on the show at times, that's why they have buttons. They can go listen to something else.
This is true. This is true.
This is what we do
here. All right,
here.
Kevin, I'll let you be.
Yeah. Stay in touch. Go find somebody today. Don't put it off. It's going to be hard. So let me give you some other advice. This is going to come down to just pure willpower. There's no other way around this one. And I don't like to depend on willpower because it's not very dependable. One of the things we know about willpower is it's like a muscle. The more important decisions we have to make in a day or a week, the worse our decision making gets. Our willpower gets weaker and weaker, just like lifting a weight. Every repetition makes us a little weaker, and then at some point the muscle just gives up. That's where your willpower is right now. You have almost none left. Yeah. And unfortunately, we have to depend on willpower for you right now. There's nothing else left. So you've got to try to avoid other big decisions if you can. So the most important decision in my mind for you right now is making that decision to go find somebody else to help and go do it. So make sure you make those decisions first thing every morning and do it right now before the day gets away from you.
Okay. All right, Kevin.
All right. Want to hear back from you soon.
I will let you go.
All right.
Okay. All right, bud.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Let's go to Vermont. Casey, welcome to the program. Oh, let me try that again. I hit the button, but it didn't work. Casey, now you're on.
Yeah. Good morning, Kevin. First thing is, Herschel, put on a good fight. Just keep fighting it.
He will.
I know he will. We're thinking of him out here. Lord knows this time of year can be tough on people.
It really is.
My first question is just a quick one about hot honey. I did a little experiment with it this weekend. I noticed they started floating right off. It says on Google to just keep turning it and coating them, and then they just float back to the top. Is that what normally happens, or?
That's one way. I don't like to have to mess with mine that much because I've got multiple batches going on and I get busy. So I use weights.
Right. You do use weights. Okay, I didn't know if we should use a weight on it or not.
Yeah, I do use weights. Now, the one thing I won't use that we typically use in fermentation, a lot of times we'll take a big cabbage leaf and use that and you kind of push it down. And I won't do that because that cabbage flavor will infuse into the honey. And in a typical ferment,
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I don't mind that in a typical ferment. It's just fine. It doesn't bother anything. But in the honey, that cabbage would change the flavor profile I'm looking at. So I use weights. I have glass weights. I have ceramic weights. I have clay weights.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what I would do to keep it under the honey.
I'll throw one in it tonight when I get home.
There you go.
Second thing, the other day when I was listening, I had a thought come into my head and just wanted to share it. Don't know if it's something that's viable or not. But as you know, out here, the tribe, we have a lot of trouble trying to help other people, trying to get them convinced that this is the way that a person should live, this is the way to eat, this is the way to do these things. And you can tell them to listen to the show and stuff, and a few of them, they've gotten, it's not anything I'm interested in, it's boring, yada, yada, yada. I wonder if in your search thing that you have, where you can search through all the different shows, if you guys were able to put together a compilation of just success stories, guys that have called in that have lost 200 pounds or what have you, and how they've done it, their journey and all that stuff. So you could just click on that and say, okay, listen to this. This is people, this is real life. This is what people have done doing this kind of, eating this kind of diet, eating this kind of way.
That's an awesome idea. Now, we are working hard on making our content much more searchable. Part of the problem with podcasting and audio or video is it's difficult to search. It's not like text where we can just do a text search and it's quick and easy. But there's some technologies on the market that we're kind of hacking together to make an audio podcast just as searchable. And we've been working on that from the very beginning. And we've used examples like you will be able to go search the app for oil samples on Cummins X15 engines, and you will get a link that takes you right to each call in the audio that you can listen. So we're working on that technology. This is another great use for that. So what we need to do is kind of come up with a keyword. Maybe when somebody starts telling a story like this on the air, I get into the habit of just saying the word testimonial somewhere. And then that becomes our search term. Yeah. And then we could sort by that. And then you're right. You could just go listen to success stories or testimonials. So we're already working on the technology, but you just gave me another great use for it.
Good. I'm glad I could be of some help.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea.
I look forward to that, because that is one of the hardest things, is if you can give somebody, just show them, listen to these stories. Listen to these 10 stories right here of people that have done this and had success at it. It would be it would be greatly powerful, without a doubt.
You're absolutely right. I mentioned earlier that I believe one of the reasons we've been as successful as we have been is the repetition. And that is a big part of it. But I left out a part. The other reason is the repetition of the success stories. If you listen to the show a lot, you hear them. But if you tune into the show, like you said, you recommended it to somebody, they tune in, they're just not really all that into it. They're not going to listen long enough to hear enough of those. So the idea of being able to say, hey, look, just go listen to this for an hour. In an hour, you'd get probably 5 or 6 or 7 really good testimonials in an hour. And I do think that has been another part of our success, is because people call back in all the time and talk about their success.
I know that keeps me, even when I have a problem and I go off the, beaten path just a little bit, listening to all that and your encouragement and other people's encouragement, it helps bring you back to center.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you.
All righty. Merry Christmas to you and to everybody out there in the tribe.
Merry Christmas. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Gene, welcome to the program.
Hey, good afternoon, Kevin.
What's on your mind today?
Hey, I finally got possession of my brand new Joe Morrow Special 2023 Volvo.
Wow, congratulations. That's exciting. It's almost like Christmas.
Yeah, that was a big step. I know. It's my local dealer had a stock order, and we was able to customize it, and I got it almost exactly the way we wanted it, but it's close enough. It's still a 6x4 instead of the 6x2.
Okay.
But I got the DC motor with 2.15 final drive, and I'm learning how to drive an automatic. It's been over 10 years since I've been in an automatic.
Excellent. Well, that's exciting.
Out of the box, I have not been below 9 miles a gallon on any Phillips. I've done 4 Phillips now.
That's incredible.
And I do have it in fuel gauges. Yeah, I have it in fuel gauges if you want to follow it along.
Yeah. What's the truck name?
It is 564298 SW.
564298 SW. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to go follow that one.
It's like I say, it's, and I've been texting back and forth with Joel. I've talked to him a couple of times, and the biggest thing for me to get my head around is I'm going down the road at 65 mile an hour on my 995, and I'm just a hair over 900 RPM right now.
I know that is incredible.
It doesn't feel normal.
I know. It's hard to get used to.
Right.
But that's an awesome. I mean, we know that it improves fuel economy. Obviously, you're getting incredible fuel economy, but we also have to think about the life of the engine itself. I mean, what wears out engines is friction. If you're running 1,500 RPMs or even 1,300 RPMs, that's a lot more friction than 900. The engines that are running like this are going to last a lot longer.
Yes. The other thing that I took a notice that really it opened my eyes up through the fuel gauges, I can see my cost per mile in fuel.
Isn't that awesome?
And I am at 37 cents a mile.
Wow. Wow. Most people are at 50.
And I compare that. Yeah, well, the truck that I replaced this with was a 2013 Peterbilt 386. Not really the most fuel efficient thing in the world, but it was at 80 cents a mile.
Wow.
I went from 80 to 37.
That's incredible. Holy cow.
And whenever you look to really sink in, that's more than huge. That's astronomical.
That is astronomical. That is so big, it's hard to get your head around.
Yeah, and that's only at my 9. What am I thinking? I'm at 9.1 right now on average, 9.2. And as Joel's told me, whenever it breaks in, given about 60,000 mile, I should pick up 0.7 after it gets broke in. And then also add the fact that I'm learning how to drive it, because it's different.
Yeah.
It's just very different, and it's taking a couple different approaches.
Well, I'm going to go follow that one because I want to watch this. And for anybody else, it's 564298SW. And in fuel gauges, you can just click the button to follow somebody, and then you get updated on what's going on with their truck. So we'll keep an eye on this one. Love those numbers.
Well, one more thing that's been perplexing me. I took it down to Pittsburgh Power, and I had the OPS bypass filter put on. This motor has a bypass filter already on it. Where should my sampling and change the filter interval be at? Should it be on? The filter should probably be on to 25,000.
We still like to do the OPS filter at 25,000. Mostly because if something goes wrong, we want to catch it early enough. So 25,000 for most people, works out to about 4 times a year, once a quarter, not that big of a deal. Take a sample, throw on a filter. At most, I would change your full flow filters twice a year.
Right. That's starting from square one, I have my whole list of things lined up to do, and I want to get a baseline on it first before I start making any changes to it.
Right.
I did put the fleet air filter on it, and we had the OPS put on. I'm still in indecision between the AirDog or the FAST system. I really don't know what the differences are between them.
So here's the difference now, and this has changed over the years. There was a time when there was almost no difference. I mean, they were doing the same things. They were doing it slightly different. The end result was about the same. With the newer engines and the new fuel systems, that second pump that AirDog has is what's making the big difference. Now, you can use the AirDog pump with the FAST, the second pump. But in my mind, if I'm going to use the second pump from the AirDog, I might as well just, if I don't already have a FAST, then I might as well just go with the AirDog in the beginning. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, like if you already had a FAST, I would say keep it and throw the secondary pump from AirDog on. But if you're going to buy the system, and honestly, because of a couple design differences, the AirDog is easier to install. So, we were partnered with FAST for years and years, still a great product, no doubt about it. But now on these newer engines and what we understand about the fuel systems, it's that second pump that's really giving us an advantage. And if you already had a FAST, you could add the second pump to it. But since you don't, Might as well just go get an air dog system.
It's quite also unique, starting with a fresh plate that nobody's ever messed around with.
Yeah, exactly.
As of right now, I've got 4,551 miles on it right now.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah.
I just filled up and reset my fuel gauge about 52 mile ago, and I'm already at 8.8, traveling down I-95, grossed out at 64,000.
What an awesome money saver this is going to be for you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
All right, keep us informed. I'm going to keep an eye on your fuel mileage as well. Let's go to Florida. Don, welcome to the program.
Hey, good afternoon, Kevin. Man, what an encouraging call that was. I think I'm back on Freightliner, it started making me want to show more interest in the Volvo again, especially after that call a few weeks ago, or that show a few weeks ago when Joel was on there and he read off all those quality shops that are around. But pretty impressive, 37 cents per mile. I'm tracking really closely the Freightliner I'm in, and I think I'm at 61 on my. I think I've tracked about 20,000 gallons so far, and I'm at 61 cents per mile. So that's pretty good.
Definitely.
So, Kevin, you might recall I'm on the 6-month wait, and we're 3 months in now.
Okay.
And I'm watching the inventory go back and forth at my company with all these fleet trucks. And give me 1 second. Hey, can you take care of the forklift driver? Sorry, we're being loaded right now, and
okay.
I want to finish this conversation with you. So my wife had to jump out of there and help with that. So anyway, I was at one of our yards a few days ago and talked to a driver, and he said, "Well, see, all these truck series numbers are former team shuttle trucks," and he said they run them up to about 350, 400,000 miles, and then they put them into a single shuttle driver. So the guys that just run our service center to service center. Yeah. And he said, "I can tell you that this one right here that I'm in is coming up for sale in 2 weeks, and this is a great truck." He said, "This thing doesn't use a drop of oil, not a drop of coolant, nothing. It runs solid." He said it did have a problem where they had to replace the fuel pump about 100,000 or 200,000 miles back. He said, and something else, and it wasn't too significant. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. With the truck had 650,000 on it. It's a 2019 truck, and on that original conversation, Kevin, you're like, you're asking the right questions. I wouldn't care if you started with a 1 million mile truck, but other buddies that are in the trade are like, come on.
Yeah, 600,000 doesn't bother me at miles at all. That's a great truck to get started with. Here's why I wouldn't get too excited about this. We're getting closer and closer, but I am still believing that used truck prices have a long way to fall yet. They haven't come down nearly as much as I think they should have. So here's the way I look at this. When you say it's got 600,000 miles, it doesn't use any oil, and it doesn't use any coolant. Okay. That's exactly what I would expect. If it did use any of those two things, it would be an absolute no-go. The fact that it doesn't use any oil or doesn't use any coolant, that's just what I would expect. That's the bare minimum I would expect out of this truck. So this isn't telling me anything. The guy didn't even tell us what the fuel economy is. That'd be a number I'd really want to know. Is he tracking the fuel economy properly, and what is it? The fact that it doesn't use oil or coolant, okay, that's the norm these days. At 1 million miles, it probably won't use any oil or coolant. That's the norm these days. So it's nice to know that you know the guy who runs the truck. I may stay in touch with him. Maybe this is the right truck, but my guess is it's not the right price yet.
Yeah, and that's he said it's going to come available. His guess is he's been told he's going to be in a new truck in about 2 weeks. He thinks it's going to come available then. We swapped phone numbers, and he said, "I'll text you whenever they notify me that I'm getting my new truck, so you'll know." And all I know is that I think it's got 247 rears. It's equipped identically to ours. It's a 2019, and we're in a 2023, and we're consistently at right around the 8 miles. Actually, when Steve told me to start tracking my fuel mileage, he really said, watch it, don't change any driving habits for the first 30 days, and then see what you can do to improve it. And that was exactly right. We did see an improvement when we started measuring how we go down hills, keeping our foot off the throttle. It's a government truck anyway, so we got much more fuel mileage out of it. But because this truck was so exactly what we've driven for the last 2 years, I thought, wow, that would be a great one to, but
here's the thing. I have to believe that fleets spec a lot of the trucks the same, so there's not going to be any shortage of these trucks just from the fleet you're in alone. I think every month there are going to be more used trucks hitting the market, and that will start to drop prices even more. So it's not to say this is the wrong truck. It may be the perfect truck. It may just be the wrong time. And timing is everything.
And that's I looked at it and I said, if we save $20,000 on a truck, and the wife and I start teaming 90 days later, what would the difference in income we could make as a team out there running long runs, as owner operators versus what we make as company drivers? I thought, it might double our money right away.
These fleet trucks are going to be everywhere soon. Over the last couple of years, we've gotten into this mindset of when you find the right truck, you better buy it, because the trucks are harder and harder to find. There just wasn't as many good spec trucks on the road. Several things have happened. One, Volvo has had several years now of speccing these trucks properly, and that means there's more of them in the market. But the bigger issue is that this market's going to tank. The used truck market is about to get flooded. We're just not quite there yet. So I would just hold off. It's not like you're missing a truck that's never going to come around again.
Okay. Just keep an eye on my own fleet, the fleet trucks. They put new fleet trucks up all the time, and we've already watched the website where they're starting to fall some.
Yep.
And it almost looks like when you look at the trucks that are over 600,000 miles, they're using like if they're 2018, they're using like 7.25 cents per mile that's on them, and the ones that are 2019s are using about 13 cents per mile that's on them, or something like that. I hadn't got home where I can really put it into an Excel sheet and do the compare on it, but so we'll just continue keeping an eye on that website and watching for it. What you're saying is consistent with what my good friend told me. He said, you're going to see there's going to be always from that fleet coming trucks that have been well maintained. That just finding one with no coolant usage and oil usage is not that big a deal. It's not going to be that hard to find another one just like that.
Yeah, that'll be the norm. That'll be the norm, and they've got good specs. The only thing we're waiting for is the price to be right. I'm thinking somewhere within the next 6 months we will probably find a bottom.
Well, and a couple of other things. The guy, I did check with the desk and the shop desk, and the guy said, this one's actually had some work done on it, but not much at all. This is a pretty good truck right here. But he said, he said we don't. 6 or 8 months ago when you and I talked, you were saying you want to oil sample your engine oil, your front and rear diff, and your transmission. He said, and you were saying that's because a lot of fleets, rather than make those investments in changing those fluid, they just trade the truck off and get rid of it so they don't spend that money on it.
Right.
But he did say 650 on this one, and none of those have been changed. So that was a clear, that would be probably one of my first actions to take if I did, when I do get a truck from them. And then also he said, just lost that thought, squirrel. But anyway, Kevin, thank you. That's confirmation from and we just literally just this morning while we've been on hold placed our second order from the store to get this. I told my wife, I said, I don't know why we didn't get some Brain Octane on that order we placed the other day. So she said, well, let me get it up over 100 so we get the free shipping. Just bought
there you go.
Bought her own bottle of berberine and some Brain Octane and some beef sticks and just what have you. So excited about seeing those things when we get home today.
Excellent. Thank you for your support. Stay in touch. We're getting close. Not quite there yet, though. Getting close. Let's go to North Dakota. Chris, welcome to the program.
Yeah, hello. I've called you before. I've been on basically carnivore for a year and a half, 2 years, somewhere in there. Had amazing results with it. But I had something strange that happened to me here the last couple weeks. I eat a lot of jerky. A lot of times, like for lunch, I'll just grab a pack of jerky, and that's what I'll have for lunch. I found some that I really like the taste of it. It's low in carbs. I try to stay under 15 grams a day, and I usually do it. But this stuff was like 1 gram of carbs in an ounce of it. And every time that I eat a handful of that, I get your infamous disaster pants. And it was bad enough to where I was almost thinking it was fat digestion. I was going to do another fat digestion kit. And then I quit eating this stuff for a week, and it totally went away. I went back and tried it again the other day, and it does the exact same stuff to me. I'm wondering if you have any ideas. Is this just a weird outlier that I should just stay away from it?
What's the brand?
It's called Sugar River, and it's their hot and spicy beef sticks. I actually looked at their ingredients, and all I'm seeing on there, beef and pork, mechanically separated chicken, flavored salt, there's soy protein isolate, and corn syrup, but it's got to be in really low levels because there's only 3 grams of carbs in an ounce. Is that little bit messing with me?
Yeah. Yeah, that's stuff we don't need in jerky. That there's a lot going on in there that just doesn't sound right to me. And honestly, any brand in today's world that would call itself Sugar River, that's just a problem. Actually, okay. Sugar River looks like...
that's kind of...
Sugar River looks like it might be a subsidiary of Jack's Links. I'm looking at this stuff right now. Yeah, we don't need soy isolates in there. We don't need corn syrup or corn syrup solids. That just tells me this is cheap jerky and they're using cheap ingredients to make it. And, you know, the person next to you may be able to eat it and not get disaster pants, but you are. That's a pretty good indication we probably shouldn't be eating it.
Well, and that's kind of where I had landed on it too. I just wanted to ask you about it. It seemed really strange to me because I can eat about whatever I want other than bread or stuff like that every once in a while, and it doesn't really affect me. You know, my digestion is pretty much perfect. It's totally cleaned up. But for some reason, this stuff was like when I started with Brain Octane, and I messed up and I did a double dose the first time I tried it. I get the exact same result from this stuff.
Yeah, it just those like I said, some people could eat this, probably not have any major digestive issues. I'm kind of glad that you did because it was your warning sign. But there's just a lot of ingredients in here that I just choose not to eat, even in tiny amounts.
Okay. Yeah, well, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't indicative of something bigger or what your thoughts on it were, but it sounds like you kind of come to the same conclusion I did.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you much. I sure appreciate everything you've done for us.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Texas. Fred, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy Christmas season.
You know, yes, Christmas season, yes. You know, I got it. I like that idea that the couple callers ago said about the testimonials. You know, I like, you know, I told my story over the years. Maybe if you wanted to, you know how you do your Kevin's commentary? Maybe you can schedule people like myself and such, you know, where we can have like a quick and then just have a whole spot for them, you know, half an hour podcast or
story
tapes,
hour.
You know,
I like that.
Yes, like a story hour. You know, and then you just have a whole, like you have Destination Health, you have that. You know what I mean? You know, you email the people that have this journey, and we can go back and forth and have a nice little commentary, and people can listen to the stories, and you can interject your questions to keep everything moving along.
I am making a note right now because I love this idea. And that's
this way it's in one category, like your Destination Health, like your trucking business and beyond, Power Hour. You can have a whole category just for that.
And that's the kind of stuff I'm looking at as we get closer and closer to being allowed to being able to have some of the other hosts do the show without me. So I don't have to be there every time. Like the Power Hour, I'm pretty sure I always want to be a part of that show, but it doesn't mean I have to be there every week. Kind of like we've got Rolling
like
Toe,
Kevin
sort
and
of
Mike's
kind of
show.
doing their own thing. But once we get to that point, then I'm looking at ideas for other things I could be doing with that time. This is a great idea. I'd love to do a show like that.
Right, and then this way you can go through, prior to, we setting up a call, you can have your list of questions so you can, when this happened, what did you do? When that happened, what did you do? You know what I mean? And stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's just a nice way. You don't have to worry about other calls coming in, and you can take your time and you can really go through someone's story.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's on the list.
Right. On the hot honey, I actually, the habanero, it's a nice, almost like an aftertaste with the heat. It's a nice little, blend. It kind of rolls right into a nice little back of the mouth type of heat. You follow me? Unless it's just what I did with it. I don't know.
No, that is part of what happens. There's still some pretty intense heat in some of these, but it's been mellowed out somewhat. It kind of spreads out throughout your whole mouth. It's not quite as intense, but there's you still know there's a lot of heat in some of this.
No, I get that, but I mean it's not you eat a pepper and it goes out and it blows your whole mouth apart. This doesn't do that. It has a good taste profile to it, from what I can tell. And I've just had, I've tried a little bit just on, just having a little sip of it just to see what it does without anything. And I like the profiles. I haven't done much. I just did 3 batches and I'm working with those. But that's, for someone I'm not big on spice where my whole mouth's on fire, like some of the the wings and stuff like that you get out in places, where you take a bite of it and all of a sudden you're looking for some milk or something just to cool off your taste buds. So it's not like that.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, and even the sweetness level is hard to explain. You still know there's something sweet there, but it's not the sweetness you think of. I don't even know how to explain it.
It becomes more savory. It becomes more savory in a sense.
Yeah. You still know there's some sweetness, but it's I don't know. It's kind of just hard to describe. That's what got me so excited about this whole project, is creating flavors and things that I've just never been able to create before.
Yeah. I also want to put out that I know it's in us mentally. We all have our issues in a sense, but it's hard to get yourself to, when you make a mistake, to forgive yourself and to move on. Like Herschel's doing to himself. He's beating himself up unnecessarily, and it's hard for him to get past that. And I know, because I do that to myself at times, not maybe to his level. But like I had said, when I go to New York, I kind of throw caution to the wind there, and I pay for it, but I don't beat myself up over it. And we got to learn to forgive ourselves.
We treat mental health issues far differently than we treat physical health issues, and I'm hoping we can get past that now. I'm hoping there's now enough evidence out there. There is enough evidence out there that these mental issues, whether it's depression, which is primarily what Herschel's feeling right now, you kind of lose interest in everything. Right. Or anxiety, which is you worry about everything. Those are our two primary kind of malfunctions right now. And, when somebody calls me and I say, look, because of your diet and the way you've eaten your whole life, you are insulin resistant. And we need to fix the insulin resistance. Everybody says, oh, okay, good. That makes sense. It's no different now. If somebody calls me and they're depressed and they're anxious or both or either one, I could say the same thing. You're insulin resistant. You're toxic. You've got heavy metals. It's the same stuff. Our brain is no different. We should not treat these mental health issues any differently than we treat high blood pressure or insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome or kidney disease or joint pain. It all comes back to our diet and our lifestyle. We're not broken. There's nothing about our brain that's broken any more than our liver was broken, and we can fix it. But we have to stop thinking of that as some sort of failure. We didn't really look at metabolic syndrome and say, oh my God, I failed. But for some reason, when it comes to our mental health, we look at that as more of a personal failure, and it's not at all.
Well, I have to say, I think the younger generation doesn't look at it that way because it's so rampant in the young, like my son's age, 19, 20, 21, and a little older and a little younger. But I think at my age, your age, we do because we came up in a society that was, we don't show our emotions, we're tough guys, we're this and that, and that I think is another struggle guys a little older have. I should I should be able to tough through this.
I didn't ask Herschel this, and I should have, and I should probably know this with all the times I've worked with him over the years, but just as a general thought for anybody who is struggling with some of this, some anxiety, depression, whatever it might be, all of the things that people reach for to alleviate the symptoms and self-medicate will make the problem worse. Alcohol being a big one.
Right.
Alcohol is absolutely a depressant. And it's one of those things that you absolutely have to quit if you're facing. I've talked about it a lot. We should all cut way back. I've said I'll probably never call myself a non-drinker. I will occasionally have a glass of wine or a cider here or there. But even one time, I can wake up the next morning, and I'm not talking about going out and getting hammered and waking up with a hangover. I'm talking about having 2 glasses of wine with dinner. I wake up the next morning and I can feel some, level of depression for the first couple of hours. It's one of those things you've got to be very, very careful of. It makes us feel better in the moment. We kind of self-medicate, but it will make us worse overall. And we can throw in all kinds of vices, gambling, shopping. All of those things are basically self-medicating.
And eating too.
Eating can be one of those too.
I find myself doing that.
Yeah.
I find myself doing that because I've had a run of, issues over the last couple months, some self-inflicted and some just trucking moments. You dive into this, you dive into that. I find myself, grabbing a piece of chocolate here where I shouldn't have and stuff. And so, I get it. I get it. We all have our vices. And, mine used to be drinking. I used to drink a lot. I used to drink every day, and I don't. I never was where I couldn't go without it. I just was, it was pleasurable, I thought. But now, it's like I very like you. I very rarely have a drink. I had one of those days last week, and my wife, likes her wine when I'm home, and I had a scotch, and you're right. I felt it the next day. I didn't have much. I had a couple drinks, and that was it. But we tend to have this, and we tend to dive into the comfort, try to get comfortable, and get our minds off of it, and it kind of affects us in the wrong way. We don't even realize it sometimes.
Yeah, what you just mentioned made me think of something else, which is the things we reach for that comfort us in the moment will make the problem worse. The real answer to this is to get more comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is the whole point of almost everything Wim Hof teaches. The breathing, if you do it properly, is actually uncomfortable. The cold is extremely uncomfortable. The heat in the sauna at some point becomes uncomfortable. The resistance training becomes very uncomfortable when you push a muscle to pure failure. It hurts. It's the discomfort that's going to make us better, and we keep reaching for the opposite.
And you know something? Our conversation here has opened my eyes. I've been putting off doing the protocol and stuff like that because it's uncomfortable. I just, you can always make an excuse.
I know.
You can always make an excuse. You can always say, I got to do this. I got to do that. And you're right. There was a couple days where I had some pretty good numbers. I should have just closed my door and did the hour, and I didn't. I got sidetracked. I was like, "Oh, Sue, you want breakfast?" And I just, anything to not to do that.
I know.
And and I love, because when I talk to you or I listen to your show, I get myself back into the mindset. Maybe I have to do this. Like, I only had 4.5 hours sleep. I stayed up way too late last night trying to binge watch a show, and it got good. And one more episode.
Yeah, I know.
I woke up with a body battery of 22 this morning.
Oh, that's a rough day. Yeah.
And I'm actually done. I'm stopping at Lowe's and getting a few things for the house, and then I'm going to go home. I'm going to probably hang Christmas lights if the rain can let up a little bit down here in Texas. And I'm having an easy day, you know what I mean? And
Good.
Probably an easy 2 weeks because there's not much going on. But, we kind of have to get out of our own head sometimes, and it's very hard for a lot of people. My son is one of those. Very hard for him to get out of his own head. And even for me, I have that with you could see with my numbers, my stress overnight.
Yeah.
My situation, I'm just letting it pick apart at me, and we have to, myself included, we all have to try to get out of that for a little while.
Yeah, and the good news is this stuff does work. The bad news is it's really uncomfortable. And it, like you said, you can always find a reason to avoid it. One of the things that I do that helps, I mean, it's always hard. I skip this just as much as anybody else does. One of the things I try to focus on when I know I should go do it, I start focusing on how I'm going to feel afterwards. Because after that hour is over, I feel incredible. And I'm so glad that I did it, and I can just relax the rest of the day and enjoy it. Otherwise, I'm going to think about it all day long. Why didn't I do it? Why didn't I do it? I should have just done it. Should I go do it now?
Yep. I've always had my best results when I was training, working out, bodybuilding and stuff, when I scheduled in my daily routine.
Yep.
I would, when I was working out after work, I didn't even go home. I went right out of the truck to my vehicle, to my car, and drove right to the gym and met my training partner, and we worked out. And when I didn't do that, if I got out of the norm, if I was home or whatever, it was just procrastination and excuses. And this motivated me to get my ass in gear too.
Good. There you go.
Real quick, all this stuff coming out with this Musk and the FBI and the government involved in censoring speech, and how we only hear it from a couple of conservative outlets.
Yeah.
On the big picture on this, I feel that there's a lot more to this if we ever got into these other media companies.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why we don't hear anything from the CNNs and the mainstream legacy medias. There's a lot more, I think, going on here.
I agree.
Going on here. Now, I don't know. I've been hearing some things about Musk censoring people that have just been kind of, I heard some things about him censoring people that were giving out his exact locations, which I understand. But now I hear he's censoring people or banning people on the platform that are just criticizing him. I don't know how true that is. You might know a little more about that, but
I haven't seen any of that.
It's a shame if he. It's a shame if he's going down this hole. You know?
I hope he doesn't. You know, he even refers to himself as a free speech absolutist, which I kind of doubt. I don't think he really is.
No, I know. Yeah.
I'm hoping at least he's better. If there's going to be censorship on the platform, which he has every right to do, just like the last owner and board had every right to do, and I supported their right to do it. It's their platform. It's private business. If you don't like certain things said on your platform, that's your choice. Then I can choose, if I don't like the way you run your platform, to go find something else. I'm fine with that. But I hope he's
I agree with that. But when you have the government involved,
then there's a problem.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's sentiment. I agree with that philosophy. My company, I run it the way I want to run it, and if you don't like it, you don't have to use me. But when you have, exterior forces that aren't supposed to be doing this, like the government, for 100%, they are not supposed to be involved in this.
Correct.
And telling people who's correct, who's wrong, who's right. They can say anything they want on their podium. They can start off at anything they want to start off, but they cannot tell. They're not allowed to tell a company, you can't have this happening on your platform.
Correct. And if nothing else, even if Musk does step in, and in my opinion, maybe he's over-censoring things, if it's his decision and there's no collusion from the government, well, then of course I'm going to say that's his right, just like I said the last owners and board. It was their right to do that. Once we found out there was government involved, now we've got a much bigger problem. So if Musk decides that he still wants to censor people, and he censors him just based on his own criteria, so what? That's his right, and I would support him. Now, I may leave the platform. I hope he doesn't. I hope he's much better at this. I realize, look, I've talked about this struggle running my own websites for the last 20 years. I've been through this. We started out, I said, I am an absolute free speech absolutist. You say whatever the hell you want to say, I'm not going to ban anybody. Well, I realized that was a mistake.
Right.
You can't do that. As much as I would like to, it becomes disruptive. It seems like the people who are willing to just post shit to cause problems have a lot more time than the people who are posting things trying to help. And they take over. And that's what happened to a couple of our platforms. The people who just wanted to cause problems, and we let them, look, because I said, I don't care what you say, you can stay, we'll just ignore you. After a while, they become so overwhelming, you can't ignore them anymore. And then the platform itself starts to suffer. Why did I invest all this money and time into building this place?
These companies,
where people can help each other, and then we can't help each other because of the assholes in there just causing problems. So you have to delete and censor some on the internet. You just have to.
Yep. Yeah, well, that's how these Fortune 500 companies become woke, because it's only a small minority with the loudest voice.
Yeah, they're just so damn persistent. They just go out of their way to make life uncomfortable until they get their way, and they're never happy. Once they get their way, it's something else. Like, I have a philosophy.
You and I can go have a drink. Whatever you do behind closed doors is your life, and leave me alone. But that's never good enough for them.
Right.
They have to. You have to start thinking and doing things the way they want it. And even when you say, okay, I'll call a guy Karen, I'll call a girl Jim, that's still not good enough. It's still not good enough.
No.
I don't know why. It's still not good enough.
You know, those, one of the, I started to look at it like, let's say I decided to have a party at my house and we were going to sit around and talk about whatever anybody wanted to talk about. There are lots of topics that if somebody wanted to talk about them, I would say, look, I don't want you at my house anymore. And nobody would think anything about that. Well, those websites that I run, sometimes I have to look at them as my house and my property. I wouldn't allow you to walk into my warehouse and talk about certain things or say certain things either. That's my choice.
Correct.
And I'm not going to allow people just to run rampant on my websites anymore and say a bunch of crap that is designed only to cause problems. I'm just not going to put up with that, and I don't have to. And if people say, well, you left a platform because you got censored. Yeah, I did. That was my solution. I went and created my own. So now if I censor you and delete you, you've got a choice. Go create your own damn platform.
Right. Or just go back on. I left Facebook for that reason. I just didn't like the toxicity in it.
Yeah.
I still have people can search me. I'm still there. I didn't close my account because I like to go on the marketplace and buy things once in a while.
Right.
But that's really the only reason I go on there. I never comment. I never look at any news feeds. I never look at any notifications. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
I'm not into it. So, it stinks because there was some people I did keep in contact with. But you know what? If I want to, I have their numbers. If I want to talk to them, I call them.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I agree. So hopefully, I hope he does a better job of censoring. There's going to have to be censorship. There just does. You can't run a platform with 1 billion people on it and allow everybody to say whatever they want. Now, some people would say, well, you can because everybody can block them, or you know what? In the real world, you just get tired of constantly fighting against it. And I get it. I don't know what the answer is. But I can tell you right now, he's doing a better job than the last group. Let's go to Iowa this time. Brian, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. How are you doing?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Hey, I'm not sure. I've been thinking about how I wanted to kind of start this conversation out. Anyway, I guess I'll just tell you, my mentor washed his hands of me completely about a month ago, and I didn't understand why. But anyway, I think I've started to understand it or get some insight into it over the last month, but it's left a real hole in, like a void in my life. I mean, I'm a brand new owner operator out here since August 1st. I was a company driver since November 24th of 2020, and I've got a lot of common sense and I'm mechanically inclined, and this is a real good fit for me. However, that being said, I have a classic truck with over 1 million miles on it. And, this guy, his dad and my dad were best friends. And we became quite good friends over the last couple of years. And we talked in fact, we talked the day where he blocked me right after that conversation. And I'm humble, and I've done everything that, I listened to him and would do everything that he suggested that I do. And I'm a quick learner. And so I'm wanting to see, like, if, what's available is there, like maybe getting another mentor out here from the tribe. He wasn't a tribe member.
So let me ask you this.
He wasn't somebody.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Has he told you why he doesn't want to work with you anymore? Is there one specific thing?
No, he just totally blocked me and washed his hands of me completely. I reached out to him.
Wait,
a couple of different channels.
So you're telling me?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll tell you exactly why. After I started making some killer money, more than I've ever made in my entire life, we have a dedicated run out of Dallas that goes to El Paso. And right there in El Paso at the Flying J, there happens to be a strip joint right next to it. And I started going there. I did like 8 runs back to back to El Paso, and he didn't approve of that. And I told him, I'm just having a little fun, and I got it out of my system. But he completely washed his hands over that. But what I realized was later on is this was more about him than me, because I'm going to tell you right now, somebody really blessed me with a opportunity. They gave me $100,000 to go buy whatever truck I wanted to, no strings attached. Everything was given to me on a silver platter. I leased onto a company that I was a company driver for, and it turned out to be a really good thing. I'm on track to make like $150,000 as a leased onto my very first company as an owner operator. And I think he was jealous of that because he had to work for everything he ever had. He had to work for like 15 years for a company, save up the money, buy a truck. And he used to tell me he would make little comments like, "You're the luckiest guy I know." And then whenever something would happen out on the road, like some major, it could have been career ending, so I'm a believer, and I saw miracles happen where things that could have ended my career supernaturally just came together, and I was taken care of and back on the road, and everything it was a miracle, and it happened more than once. And he would say stuff like that all the time, like, "You're the luckiest guy I know." So
there's a lot to unpack here. Let me just start right there. I've said this several times recently. Looking back on my life from as far back as I can remember when I was a kid, I've always felt like somehow I've been blessed beyond what I deserved. And I don't even know what that means. I just feel like things always work out for me. Now, that doesn't mean I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth and everything's been handed to me. That's very different.
Right.
I just feel like things always go my way. I mean, I look back and I think, how did I get so fortunate? But there's another part to that. I've never taken that for granted, and I've never depended on it. And in most ways, I think because of it, it makes me work twice as hard. I feel like I need to make sure that I don't blow this opportunity that I keep being given by life. I better take this and make something of it and help somebody else with it as well. But I feel like I have been blessed. Nothing's really been handed to me. I've worked for everything I have, but I just feel like my situation has always kind of gone my way. But I've taken a whole different message from that. I've taken the message that if I've been so fortunate that I keep getting handed all these opportunities, I better do something good with them. I better not blow this. So you just may be the same way. And who knows, have I really been given all kinds of great opportunities, or does it just work out that way because I am grateful for them? I don't know. Either way, right. I'm just going to keep doing what I do. And a lot of people say, well, you got lucky with trucks and you got lucky with that radio show. And I can look at that and go, yeah, maybe I did. But I never take it for granted. I don't ever feel entitled to it. And I try to make the most of every opportunity I'm given. So don't let that part bother you or, diminish what you have accomplished on your own. This is more about him. he may have some very strong religious and moral beliefs about strip clubs. That's fine. That's his right and his prerogative to have those feelings and thoughts. And his belief might even be, I can't associate with somebody who does that. I'm okay with that too. That's his choice in life. It's your choice in life that you enjoy that and you want to go do that. And in my opinion, consenting adults should be allowed to do whatever the hell they want as long as they're not hurting somebody else. And people will say, oh, but those strip clubs take advantage of the women. Only because the women allow them to. And somebody can say, well, they have kids to feed. I get it. We all have a life to live. We all choose how we're going to get through it. So I don't judge other people for any of the decisions they make. And I would, and this is just me, that would never be a reason for me to stop mentoring somebody. So I would forget all of that's gone on so far, but I would have you start thinking about something different than what you're thinking about right now. Forget everything that just happened. Not much you can do about it. You didn't do anything wrong. You're better off now that he's not going to be mentoring you because that just wasn't a good fit. I'm not saying he couldn't have been a good mentor. He might be for somebody. I don't know. But for you, it certainly wasn't a good fit. So you're better off just to get out of that anyway. My next question for you would be, why do you think you need a mentor?
Well, I've been kind of asking myself that very thing over the last month. I just know that I'm out here all alone, and if something happens, I can, I have access to you and Pittsburgh Power, but it's during limited hours. Before, he really took me under his wing, and I had a lot of problems with this truck. I'm talking like $60,000 worth of problems when I first put this truck on the road.
Yeah,
and he took me under his wing, and
I get that. At some point, that becomes a handicap, in my opinion. At some point in your mind, you're like, oh, well, I don't need to know that stuff. I have all these other people I can call.
Absolutely.
So I have mentors. Those people have no idea that they're my mentors. I can learn from a lot of people. And, and it's not a mentor that I could call at 3:00 in the morning and say, my truck's broke down. What am I going to do? But I read what people write. I listen to what people say. I learn from them. That could be considered a mentor of sorts, but I don't have a personal mentor I could call. And honestly, I don't want one. You have the ability to learn the things you need to figure out what to do at 2:00 in the morning when your truck breaks down. Learn them.
I do. I get on Google or try to figure it out or watch YouTube.
So you don't need a personal mentor that you can have direct conversations with. You could have 10 mentors. You could have one, guy that you learn financial stuff from, and one you learn health from, and one you learn business from, and one you learn crocheting from. Hell, I don't care. And they don't even have to know that they're your mentor. You can read what they write. You can listen to what they say. You could take advice they gave to somebody else and try it. But, I think that we're all better off when we really try to learn this stuff on our own.
Well, I am. I'm absorbing as much as I can. But so what is the mentor program or mentors that you have for then? What are they, just for people that are just don't know anything about trucking and they just jump off the cliff and build the parachute as they go down? Because that's what I did.
Well, how did that work out for you?
It's working out.
Okay.
This year, by the end of the year, I guess I will be I'm not at the point where I've been able to cash flow this yet. It's been on a credit card. I run it up 20 grand, pay off 10 grand, run it up again. It's been like that for 4 months. But now, those repairs are becoming less and less and less. And now by the end of the year, I believe that I will be able to, I'm going to pay this credit card off completely and then be able to build up. I want to get 15,000 put back for an end frame because this truck's going to need it. And I want to be able to start cash flowing it. And then, of course, I'm going to have your tax guys do my taxes this year. And then I'll just have to reevaluate and see where I'm at. But I'm a little scared. I mean, it's scary and it's awesome. And I've got that crap out of my system with the whole titty bar thing. I just felt like I was 20 years old again on top of the world with this, 550 horse cat under me and a classic Pete and making more money than I've ever made in my entire life with this once in a lifetime opportunity that was given to me.
So Brian,
and I
let
it go to my head for a couple weeks.
You did, and a couple weeks is nothing. I've seen people let that kind of stuff go to their head for a couple of years, and they'll ultimately end up failing because of it. You got it out of your system, you recognized it, and you're scared. That's the best thing I heard about this whole call. That fear is what keeps you in line. That fear is what makes you take a step back and say, am I doing this right? Or am I heading down a path that's going to lead to failure? You're already questioning yourself, which is all you need.
Okay. So just keep doing what I'm doing then, I guess, is what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, I'm going to put you back on hold. We have people, Steve was just on a little bit. He loves helping people. But I don't know that you should look at anybody as though they're like your personal mentor. And if you lose them, there's now a problem. Nothing wrong with having people you go to for advice. But I would look at as yourself as your own best mentor.
Okay. So it's a matter of perception then, of looking at the lens that I see my reality through, kind of like, what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Okay. So you're going to put me on hold and
I am.
And what?
Yeah, I am. We'll if you want to call Steve, or we have a couple other people that volunteer, to help people like this, that's fine. I mean, we can always learn from other people. I'm not saying for a second that I only depend on myself. I said I have lots of people I could look at as mentors. They don't even know it. I want to know the information myself. I want to keep learning myself, and I want to be able to depend on myself. You're at that point where I think that's what you need now. You need to get more confident in depending on yourself. Let's go to Texas. Gary, welcome to the program. Oh, let me try that again. My button doesn't seem to want to work today. It's not very responsive. Gary, go ahead.
You were talking a while ago to the guy that had some disaster pants.
Yes.
So that brought to my mind, my favorite meal is fried pork chops, fried in marigold butter, and fried okra the same way. No bread, no nothing on the okra. And I love that, and we usually try and have that once a week. But every time, and it's my favorite meal, so that's why I keep eating it. But every time, maybe from 1 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I have to get up and I have disaster pants. And if not, I can make it all the way through the night. And first thing in the morning when I get up, disaster pants. And maybe an hour or 2 hours later, I've got to go as much as 3 times, pretty much every time, at least twice. But so maybe 3 times during that morning, it's disaster pants, and then everything's okay. But I love that meal, so I keep eating it. So I was just going to ask, what do you think over this?
So did you say it was okra?
Okra.
Okay. So there's
Okra does that to me.
There's two possibilities here that would cause this. The butter, possibly, if you have poor fat digestion. Are there other times where you consume at least that much butter and don't have the same issue?
Every morning in my coffee, I usually have 2 to 3 cups of coffee in the morning, and I put a pretty good chunk of butter in each cup of coffee.
Then I don't think it's the butter. I actually think it's the okra. Try having the meal without the okra once and see what happens.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. It is the okra. There's no doubt. I mean, I can eat just pork chops and nothing else, and a lot of times I do. But when I have my okra, so I don't want to give up my okra, but I can, and that's something I shouldn't be doing.
Well, I don't know. Clearly, there's an immediate reaction, but you've said, I know what the reaction's going to be. I'll deal with it. It's a fair trade-off. I really enjoy the meal. I'll deal with the consequences. The short-term consequences are disaster pants, and you're willing to deal with that. I don't know if there's any long-term problem or not. Some foods just don't agree with us. It might be more fiber than your body's used to. But I don't know, and I don't think anybody could answer this honestly. Is it doing any long-term damage that we should be worried about? My guess is probably not. It's not like this is something you eat every day. And if you're willing to say, look, it makes me a little uncomfortable and I have to deal with this, but I really enjoy it, so I'm going to. I don't know that there's any long-term damage. I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah. That's kind of what I was hoping to hear, but I might cut back on it some.
Yeah. I mean, look, I absolutely know that every time I ingest alcohol, it's not good for me. I know that. And I've said I'm probably not going to quit completely because once in a while I enjoy it and the trade-off is okay. And I do it less and less because the trade-off isn't as okay as it used to be. And maybe I'm just getting smarter or maybe something else has changed. But I'm not going to try to live a life that's so restrictive I have no joy left either.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's about all I had.
I'm pretty sure.
Come to my mind.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the alcohol I consume once in a while is doing more damage than the okra you consume once in a while.
Okay.
If you were telling me it was Fruit Loops, we may be having a different discussion. But I mean, this is a natural, real, whole food. I just wouldn't worry too much about this one.
And really, I don't remember. I've always loved okra, but I don't remember in the past up until, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and we've been eating your way for several years now. But I don't remember this being a problem until maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
That's entirely possible. I mean, when you make those kind of changes to your diet like you've made, something's going to change, and this is just one of those things.
Yeah. And you said something about fat digestion. How, and I've heard you say look in the toilet, and I don't know what you're looking for when you look in the toilet, but how do I know if I have problems digesting fat?
So the indications would be your stools are either light brown or even gray almost. That's an indication of poor fat digestion. And shiny stools or fat actually floating in the water that you can see, those are all the signs. That's what you're looking for.
Okay.
And if you have poor fat digestion and you eat a big fatty meal and you aren't seeing any of those signs, then you probably don't have poor fat digestion. You may have some other digestive issue, but fat digestion is usually pretty easy to figure out, and we know how to fix it. Sometimes it takes a little while, but we've always been successful in fixing it.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
Well, I'll keep an eye on that and see what. No, I think that's it. And I appreciate it.
All right. Sounds good. I think we're going to wrap this up. We've blown through all the calls. We're at an hour and a half. It was a good day. Like I said, I'm going to take it a little easier this week. I may put some time into projects, but not a whole lot. I'm going to do the show and catch up on some novels that I want to read, and who knows what else I might do. We'll see. Just going to take it a little easy for a couple weeks and then come out swinging in January. The schedule today, we've got this week, we've got the Power Hour tomorrow, Destination Health on Wednesday. I don't believe we have any guests. Thursday will be a free-for-all and rolling toe. So thanks for joining me. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.